Good evening and welcome to Tuesday Night Talking with Turds. My name is Craig Turton. I'm your host this evening, as I am every Tuesday night at 8. So glad to have you here tonight. Tonight's a really big night for 100 Words Mate to Mate. We are launching our Mate to Mate Fit Club tonight, which we're really excited about. Now, as I said, as I do every week, I'm one of the proud co-founders of 100 Words Mate to Mate. We're a men's health organisation trying to reduce the stigma about men's health in this country and trying to reduce the amount of men that take their lives every day in this country. Okay, so together we've started a campaign called Mate to Mate at 8. Okay, so what we want you to do is this. At 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night, we want you to ring a mate of yours and say this. G'day, mate. How's your day been out of 10? He will there give you a number. Okay, so there's the poll. So as you jump on tonight, tell us how your day's been out of 10. Okay, and we'll go from there. Now, tonight, all we are trying to do is mirror a conversation between two mates. Okay, that's all we're trying to do. So I'm not a doctor or a psychologist or anything. I'm, in fact, a painter. But all we're trying to do tonight is get you to ring a mate and have a conversation that starts with, "G'day, mate. How's your day been out of 10? Okay, so we've got some people jumping on there now. Okay, so interesting. We've got some guys there that have jumped on. They've had a 3 out of 10. We've got guys who've had a 6, a 7, or an 8. So hopefully we'll get all those up, particularly that person who's jumped on who's had a 3 out of 10. So now, at any stage, okay, at any stage, if the conversation tonight gets a little bit too much for you, there's always a number to ring. That number is 131114. That is Lifeline, okay? And someone will be there to always pick up the phone. We hope we don't get to that stage, but we need to mention that for everyone's sake. Now, tonight, when we launched the Mate to Mate Fit Club, we have gone straight to the top draw tonight. We've got a great man called Luke, a really good friend of mine. Now, Mate to Mate at 8, the Mate to Mate Fit Club is designed to help blokes stay active and healthy and exercise with their mates. Okay, so now tonight, and we'll get him up on the screen, we've got my mate, really good man, Lukey Nelson. How are you, Lukey? How's your day been out of 10, my friend?
Hey, Turds. I'd say it's been, it started off at about a 2 with my daughter having a meltdown at homeschool, but it fortunately got better than that and probably finished it around a 6. So it was a better day.
Well, you made a rapid improvement in the afternoon, mate.
That's right. The only thing probably would have topped that if I could get a run in today, I probably would have pushed it up to a 7 or an 8. But not today, mate. Not today. But what about yourself, mate? How do you rate yours out of 10?
Mate, I probably had I was only about a 6 today, and I was driving home, and I got a phone call from a mate of mine who said he got a mate of his to watch the show last week and has made an appointment to see Lawrence, the psychologist we had on last week. So that's a really good outcome for us and show that we had some traction last week. So I've probably gone from a 6 on the way home, mate, to came home and bounced in the door and probably sitting at an 8 and seeing your beautiful little face tonight. I'm rocking at about a 9 at the moment. So, mate, really glad to have you. Now, mate, let me just go through for the people at home there in their hundreds who are listening to us. Let's just go through the following. Now, we have got, as I said, we've gone to the top draw tonight, right, straight to the top shelf to get you to help launch our Mate to Mate Fit Club. Now, this is the reason we've gone to you, my friend. You have completed 5 marathons. That's 5 more than me. All right, so congratulations on that. You've done an ultra marathon. You've done 2 Ironmen. You were in 2016. You were awarded the Sports Chiropractor of the Year, no less. You are currently the president of the Sports Chiro Australia, the vice president of Sports Medicine Australia. Mate, I'm knackered just going through that. I need a rest. You are a high achiever, my friend.
Busy man, mate, and then throw a wife and 2 kids in there, and there's not much of a dull moment in the day.
When do you have time for a wife and 2 kids?
Oh, mate, I'm very organised. I run a very tight ship, a very scheduled week. But
now, mate, running, and I know you're a runner because as I'm driving off to work, I quite often see you running around and going about as fast as I am in my car. Now, how and why did you get into running, my friend?
Yeah, so look, I've always been pretty active right throughout my life. Never really, I guess, excelled at a particular sport. I played, basketball at a reasonable level when I was younger. Just loved being a part of it, the camaraderie and the teammateship as well, and sort of got into uni and kept up some basketball during that time. And then once I started work, I found it was quite hard to fit it in with my schedule, often working till quite late at night in practice. And so I actually just sort of naturally started gravitating towards it as a convenience, and did it more and more. And then through practice, I was treating a number of runners, and one gave me the nudge and said, "Well, look, you should run a marathon." And so I thought, you know what, I never wanted to turn down a challenge, and I took that up and crossed that first marathon, and said I'm never doing another one of those again. And but then the following day, I was thinking, all right, what am I going to do next? And yeah, here I am, 5 marathons and a couple of Ironman triathlons later. So.
How old were you when you did your first one?
So it was actually 29. So I was 29. So it wasn't, I look back on it now because I always laugh because I remember reading an article not that long ago, and it was talking about how the peak um, age groups for entering in these marathons and long distance events the final year of a decade. So there's the 29s, the 39s, the 49s. But I actually look back on it in the time, and I think it was just the way it converged. It wasn't oh geez, I'm turning 30, I better do something about this. But no, it was more just a this is a good time for me to do it. So yeah, so I was 29 when I did my first.
Well, that's good because I didn't do when I was 29. I didn't do when I was 39, and it's a good couple of years until I turn 49. So I've got a couple of years to sort of think about it and deliberate, and maybe you can try and get me over the line.
Well, that's right, mate. I won't be rude and say that you need that time, but I'm sure you can make it
Oh, you
work.
should, mate, because you're the guest on my bloody show. So don't start with that.
That's right.
All right?
Cut me off now.
Mate. Now, marathons, as we talked to Lukey Richards the other week. Now, he's a marathon swimmer. So we've got blokes that are doing it in the water. We've got blokes that are doing it on land. Now, mate, these things take a long time. Right? So they take a lot of time away from the family, which I know you're a big family man. So I know how hard that must be, mate, to try and fit all that training in because hours upon hours upon hours that go into it. So
Yep.
Is that one of the hardest things for men to try and get that commitment from the family and find the time?
Absolutely, mate. It's something that, I mean, the event itself is, to be honest, not that hard. You might think sort of running 42 Ks it's
Go back a step.
surprisingly,
The event's not that hard.
not too hard. But you're right. The hard thing is the training. Is the build up to it. You've often got 20 weeks of build up there. I did my first couple of marathons before we had kids. But then I did my first Ironman triathlon when just before our daughter was born. I managed to tick that off the list. But then I wanted to go back again, and I wanted to improve on my previous result, and so I went back again with the blessing of my wife. But that was really tough, actually, really hard. It was something that I actually crossed the finish line in that race, and the first thing I said to my wife was, "I'm sorry," because it was hard. Like, it was, our daughter wasn't a great sleeper, and she was only one and a half when I was sort of training for this event, and so there'd be mornings I'd be getting up at 5 o'clock, and she'd be either hadn't slept much the night before, or as I was walking out the door, she was screaming, and then I'm off for a 6-hour bike ride and an hour and a half run. So there was a huge amount of guilt that went along with that. And that's sort of, as a result, I haven't been back for another Ironman triathlon. I'd like to do another one at some stage, but maybe when the kids are a bit older. But yeah, the time commitment for an event like that, I mean, a marathon, you're looking at anywhere from sort of 60 to 80 Ks. You can a week you can run off that. For an Ironman triathlon, you're looking at upwards of, the biggest week I think I had was about 19 hours of training, and that's on top of working full time, and that doesn't leave much for a social life. life because, you know, you're pretty much getting up early to train, and so you're in bed by 9:30. So yeah, I owe my wife a lot after that. And it's funny actually because I see a lot of Ironman triathletes as well in my practice, and you know, a lot of them will joke that it's, you know, it's called the widowmaker because, you know, it can break marriages because of the extreme time that it does take up. It's a big commitment. So I don't think that wasn't a particularly, I don't look at that time and say I definitely did not have a healthy balance in my life then. And so that is certainly something that's not sustainable. So you might be able to do it for a period of time. I've fallen back now into a pattern which is sustainable. You know, it's something that I can continue doing for, you know, for I hope the rest of my life, and it not put too much strain on relationships or family or social or work for that matter as well.
Is that a big challenge for you when your clients come to you and they want to do things like that? Is that one of the big challenges that you need to talk them through, that the amount of time and effort that's going to take away from their family? And is that something you suggest to them, having been there, is that something you suggest to them and say, you really need to talk this through with your partner?
Absolutely. I don't think people do realise that when they're taking up a challenge like that is the commitment that it actually that it entails. And so yes, I will definitely mention that to them, and I'm not afraid to tell them, like I've told you, that, you know, the strain that it did put on our relationship, it was pretty tough. Yeah, it's a very, I mean, Ironman triathlon is a very selfish sport because of the amount of time that you need to take away, and you know, I guess any other events for that matter too, which is taking up that huge amount of time. It's you're expecting others to, you know, to make a lot of sacrifices. So yeah, it is definitely something I will openly tell people about.
But it does. So I see you running with the kids and park runs and everything. It does set an amazing example for your children, though. Okay, so your kids are very active. I know they're young, but they're very active. It sets an amazing, inspirational sort of, you know, platform for them. Is that another thing that you get older guys coming to you saying, you know, I've got to do something because I know the benefit that it'll have for my kids?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and that's something I am always aware of is being a role model for my kids. And you know, I have fond memories of you know, seeing my dad go out for a run, and even joining my dad for a while. And I remember the first run that I actually beat him on, legitimately, not you know, not letting me cross him over the finish line. And you know, I hope to be doing that with our kids when, you know, for the rest of my life. I'd hope to.
You won't let it win. I know you. You won't.
No, that's right, exactly. Just stick the leg out, and no, I'll be trying to put that off as long as I can, mate. But that'll certainly keep me going. But yeah, it's something. I mean, it's also just something that I love. I love running, and I want to share that with my family too.
Nice one. Now, mate, what sort of level of exercise should men sort of over 35, which I just sneak into, what sort of level of exercise should we be doing compared to what we are doing?
Yeah, definitely. So the World Health Organization recommends that we should be doing 150 minutes of lower intensity to moderate exercise. So that would be like a brisk walk. So 150 minutes. So that's, you know, 2.5 hours. On top of that, though, we want to be doing 75 minutes of moderate to higher intensity exercise, to vigorous exercise. So that would be, you know, that could be either going for a run, that could be, you know, jumping on the spin bike, it could be in the pool, it could be lifting weights. So that's at a minimum. Now, the additional recommendations for that is also resistance training 2 times a week. And that becomes even more important once you start to get above 35. So especially for the older males, and I will certainly encourage, because, and I'm not looking at you, mate, directly, but
You are.
but 2 times a week for resistance training, and there's a lot of benefits that has. After the age of 35, we lose a lot of our muscle mass. Again, I'm not looking at you directly there, mate, because these arms are certainly runners' arms. But the resistance training and the other benefits that has as well too is in terms of, there's many benefits of resistance training, including staving off dementia, and also things like diabetes risk as well too. So that's at a minimum. You've got 150 minutes of lower intense exercise. You've got 75 of vigorous. You've got 2 resistance training. But that's at a minimum. If you really want to do more than that, then you pretty much double that. So 300 minutes of mild to moderate exercise, and then 150 minutes of vigorous exercise. And a large proportion of our population in Australia do not meet those requirements, which is sad. And we see a lot of preventable diseases, cardiovascular diseases, cancers, diabetes, and the consequences of that too, throwing dementia in that as well. And a lot of these can be influenced by exercise.
Well, I speak to a lot of guys and talking about the correlation between mental health and physical health. And one thing they always say, and I always ask them this: once you've done your training in the morning, how do you feel out of 10? And they always say 7 or above. And I go, okay, so when you don't train, how do you feel? And it's always sort of below 5. So already, some of them explain it to me like it's the hardest part of the day, and by 7 o'clock, Terts, it's over. It's the old Tommy Hafey sort of theory that do all your work, your hardest part of the day in the morning, and then come 7:30, 8 o'clock, you're done.
Yeah.
And it just gets you off on a good note. And then as a mate of mine explained it to me, if you're already an 8 after the gym when you come home, you can take a bit of a hit then. If something goes wrong, you might drop back to a 6. But if you're a 3 and you take a hit, then you're really, the day can be gone and you can have a really ordinary day.
Yeah, and I've never sort of thought of it that way in terms of, I like that way of thinking of it actually with that rating system and, how many points you've got left. But there's certainly starting the day off on that note. There's a lot of benefits to starting the day with exercise. And the one that I tend to explain to patients mostly is that it's more likely to get done. It's less likely to get skipped, because we all know you might have a heck of a day at work and you just get home and just like, I'm done. I'm not heading out the door to exercise again. So that's one of the reasons I say get it done in the morning. It just makes sure that it's done. You don't need to worry about it then. But as you mentioned, you've got that additional benefit there of the mental influence, and we can't. Exercise has wide ranging effects, and there's always a joke around that if they could create a medication that did all the benefits of exercise, we'd be solving so many diseases in the world, because it has such wide-ranging effects, including the mental health benefits as well. I've just seen a question just pop up there about the exercise that is per week as well. So that's 150 and 75 minutes per week that we should be getting. Yeah.
Now I've got a mate that always says to me, the hardest thing is just getting out of bed, and that a footy coach said to him, the number one thing you got to say to yourself in the morning is just get up. And once you stand up, you very rarely lie back down.
Yeah, there's lots of tricks to that. One of them is having your alarm clock away from your bed, and just trying to make it, if you've got some heating in your house, something to make it a bit more comfortable, and to set that to go off in the morning, so that when it does go off, you've got less excuses to knock out of bed. Because I can tell you, mate, in the years that I've trained in those early mornings, and sometimes getting up at 4 or 5 o'clock, sometimes you just don't want to. But it's the grind of doing it over and over again. Especially it's training for anything is like that. It's a grind, and there's days when you just don't want to do it. But that's some of those days are some of the fondest ones that you'll have. Like a lot of the events that I've trained for, those hard days and those hard sessions where sometimes there's some sessions I've broke down crying, like I've just been absolutely broken, and you remember them often more clearly than what you do the race itself. The race itself's often over and done with quickly, but it's the 4 to 5 months of build up there, and the hard work and commitment that you'll remember.
Now, I know my producer here, Matt, likes to put his blue fluffy slippers next to the bed. So when he gets out of bed, he gets to get his feet into those, and he feels a little bit more snug then and warm and more likely to go and do something.
I've heard they're pink, but anyway, yeah.
I think he's got 2 pairs, mate.
Okay, good.
Now, the other thing, he's trying to mute you. Now, the other thing was, Training with a mate, how important, I mean, we are all about mates here at 100
Yeah.
Words. How important is it to not do it by yourself and commit to doing it with a mate?
Absolutely. Look, I think having a training partner is a really good incentive, especially for those that that just if you know that you lack that motivation or that drive. Some people are very driven and they can do it by themselves. And most of my training I'll do by myself just because it's convenient. But I never pass up an opportunity to run with someone else because I love that social side, and it is one of the things I do miss about running is being involved in a team. So having someone to hold you accountable, to chat with along the way. I mean, from a running perspective, it's also good because the intensity that you want to run at should be at a conversation pace. So most people when they run too hard, they're running really, to get the sweat up, but it's actually more beneficial for your body and also a training effect to actually run those slow. So it's perfect because it actually makes sure that you keep in that intensity that you need to. So many benefits that there is to running with someone else.
So the theory is you should be able to talk and run. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Yes, you should be able to what we call conversation pace, or if you can, sort of trying to breathe through the nose. And for some people that might be taking a dint in your pride if if you're really sucking in air there, then you might just have to take a bit of a walk break. But
That's what I tend to do. Just chucking a little walk.
That's it. But then the idea is to resume running though at some point. Yeah, the conversation pace is ideally what you want to be doing the most of your weekly mileage at. And so most people run too hard, and as a result, they can face some injuries down the track.
Now, I know one thing you've always said to me is movement snacks, you call them. Talk me through that.
Moving snacks. So one of the good things, I mean, not only is it important to get that, we spoke about those minutes of exercise during your week. Now they can be broken into smaller sections, and for aerobic exercise, so that's more just your movement things like running or walking. They can be broken up into a small section as 10 minutes, and it doesn't even need to be walking. It could be you might be at your desk and you stand up and you start doing some air squats or your lunges. Explain to your colleagues around you what you're doing. But these movement snacks are a really good way to get what we call incidental exercise into your day. One of the things that Fitbit, who the watch company, they released some data last month, and they were looking at all the step count around the world. They've actually collect all this stuff, and this was during isolation in pretty much the entire world, and they found was a global decline in step count. So even though here we've been able to continue to exercise outdoors, and I've found this myself too, when I spend some time at home, that your step count just plummets. And so you might get a run in or something in the morning, but then the rest of the day you're not doing much at all. And that's actually a problem as well. So, we actually divide people into, you can be fit and active. That means that you're fit and you're moving a lot during the day, active, but you can also be fit and inactive. And that can actually be a problem in itself, because that inactivity has been linked with cancer and heart disease. So it's one thing to be, get your training session in the morning, but if you're not getting that regular movement in during the day, then that can be a problem, and your health risks of those diseases I mentioned. So the movement snacks are a really good way to get that break up that sedentary time during the day.
One of the things we've been doing as a family, and we did it last night with Lego Masters big time, was in the ad breaks. We just do something in the ad breaks. So you get that 90 seconds, 2 minutes, and you just do something. And it's amazing actually how much you can get the heart going in that sort of 90 seconds. It's really good.
Oh, it's perfect, mate. You've got that, and then you've got a lot of the watches these days, like the Apple watches and the activity trackers, will give you a warning if you've been sitting for an hour or so. And that's generally what I recommend is an hour, get up, have a bit of a move around, and just get the blood flow going a bit. It also helps your mental attention span as well too. So you tend to be a lot more productive at work. So some people see, it's just going to be a distraction, but in actual fact, you'll get high quality work done right throughout the day by doing that.
So, okay, and that was one of my questions, though, the changes that you've seen or little tips that you've got for people in COVID now, where a lot more people are working from home, and in the future, clearly a lot more people are going to be working from home. So what are some of, like what we've just talked about, I think ties in with how people can get their fitness incidentally throughout the day, and like going for that little, doing a quick walk or end of the street and back, every hour, just to clear their head and think better. Do you think that's sort of the stuff?
Absolutely, so one of the things you can be doing is get 3 10-minute walks in your day. So that's half an hour a day. Multiply that by by 5 days of the work days of the week. There's 150 minutes right there. Get a little bit extra on the weekends. You might get out for a longer walk on one of those or a couple of those walks. You've met your requirements right then and there. And so it's some people, it can be a bit overwhelming when you talk about you've got to do 150 minutes. Think about this, but when you break it down into chunks, then people, it's a lot more consumable to people, and they think, yeah, I can do that. 10 minutes is easy.
That's such a good thing. You're so right, because 150 minutes, gee, that's a lot. But as you say, you're 10 minutes 3 times a day, and you've got your 150, and you haven't even done anything on the weekend, which is generally when people have got a little bit more time.
Yeah, absolutely, spot on. So
now, mate, one of the things also that you've always said to me is blokes are better in committing to fitness when there's a challenge involved in regards to something like Kokoda. I know that's sort of got me at the moment, or a fun run. When they can commit to a challenge, that seems to be when they work the best.
Yeah, so I mean, part of a lot of what I do in practice is is working out what motivates people and asking them what motivates them, because we're often having to change behaviour. People have come in generally with a problem, and that is often linked to, in the general population, if I'm just seeing just your everyday person, that's often linked to a lack of exercise. And so you've got to figure out what drives them. And one of the things that drives a lot of people is towards a challenge. So training for life, if you just say to someone, I just train because it's healthy, a lot of people think, yeah, I can't really grasp that concept, it's too abstract for them. So if you sort of say, all right, well, how about you set yourself this, or and even then weight loss, like I don't tend to drive people towards that as being a factor, because that only gets you so far. Whereas challenges tends to be a little bit more holistic as well. And so for guys, they do tend to be driven more in that regard. So I often chat to them about what do they like to do, and what are some things. Have a look at some things that are upcoming that you might be interested in training for and having a crack at.
Sorry, mate, you've just gone off my screen. I think I pressed the button.
No, I'm still here. You see me?
I'm here. Now, mate, let's go through the Strava. Talk me through Strava, and which is what we need to do to get on to our Mate to Mate Fit Club. Talk me through that.
Yes. We'll having a good chat to Matt and yourself about some ways that we can encourage that activity and come up with the Mate to Mate Fit Club on Strava. Now, for those that don't know Strava is a free app on on Android and Apple. And what you need to do is you just download Strava, and you can sign in really any way you want, or through your Facebook profile, and then you basically do a search. Just do a search for under Explore, and you'll see a tab there called Clubs, and then you just search in Mate to Mate Fit Club, and then ask to join, and one of the admins there will accept you. But what the plans is with that is to have some regular challenges in there, and we've got a couple that are coming up already. But to encourage everyone to get out and training with a mate, and working towards getting those minutes up.
Now, one of the things we want guys to do when they do this is, when you're out there training and going for these walks, this is the perfect time, okay, to ask, mate, how's your day been out of 10, or how's your week been out of 10? It's the perfect time, okay? When we're doing these fitness things, this is the absolute smack time when we can do this for our mates. It's really important.
Yeah, absolutely, and I always used to joke, and there's a joke amongst endurance athletes, that if you can't sort these problems out on a 1 hour, 2 hour run, then you're never going to sort them out. So it gives you a lot of thinking time, a lot of talking time. And there's also something about, well, there actually is some scientifically proven that exercise actually does increase that blood flow and does help with cognition and thinking. And so, I've got to credit some of my better ideas that have come to me out on a run. So it's absolutely perfect time to be pairing up with someone else and really, talking about life.
Very good. Now, mate, we've got a couple of questions here from Paul. Says here, win the morning, win the day. That's awesome.
Good saying that one. Yeah, I like that one, Paul. Good one.
That's really good. Now, that goes back to what we were saying before about getting up in the morning, getting the work done, okay, feeling sort of 7, 8, 9 out of 10, and you're already in front. That's well done, mate. I love that. That's really good.
That's a good one.
I think Matt Scaffidi's mentioned that also a couple of weeks ago. It's a really, really good one. Now, the other thing was, now from Marcello, great man that he is sent in a question. What is the Strava group called again? It's Mate to Mate
Fit Club.
Fit Club. Marcello? Now, Marcello is a massive runner, so I'd imagine he'll be out.
Oh, right. Okay. So he'll be giving us all a smackdown in the group. It does actually have charts in there, so you can keep track of, see what everyone else is doing. And although interestingly, Strava just announced today that they're changing some stuff on the app with leaderboards. So I don't know what that means for the clubs. I guess we'll find out, but we'll still be able to put the challenges in there, which is what it's all about. And you can post and comment and have a bit of banter going in there as well, which should be good fun.
Well, I think that's how guys best work, though, isn't it? So the theory is that you take, you'll do your exercise, and then you'll get on to see if your mates have done anything. And if they haven't, you'll generally get into them and say, "Hey, why haven't you done anything?"
Yeah, and it's Strava. They sort of put it as like the Facebook for people that train, for cyclists and runners, and you get your mates to join in and you can comment and like each other's entries. So it's really good. It can be a really fun place.
Excellent. Now, mate, what have we got there? We've got starting tomorrow. Yes. Wednesdays at 8 o'clock in the morning. Yep. Okay, we are doing a walk down at Wattle Park every Wednesday morning. Matt, my intrepid producer, will be down there sweating out. So if anyone wants to join him down there tomorrow morning or tomorrow, every Wednesday, just go for a walk yourself, log in, punch your details in. And then on the 31st, mate, that's the big one. The 31st of May is when we are launching our big walk. Now, it can be a walk, a ride, a run, a swim, a hike.
Maybe not swim might be a bit hard. It's what we're doing for that one is travel around your suburb basically. So that sort of idea came up when I saw a few of my friends on Strava actually posting pics of them going around their suburb, and there was even one I saw on Instagram. A guy did the entire streets of Hampton, which was 70 something kilometres. So you don't need to go quite to those extremes. It was a funny looking map actually. It's sort of going back and forth. But no, we're just sort of talking about running the outskirts. So I had a crack at that the other week. It's for those that want to know, Surrey Hills is about just over 10 Ks. I think it might be 10.1 or 10.2. I think I clocked it in at.
Go round. Okay.
Yeah. Now some of the course do go through people's backyards, so it just stick to the closest street when it comes to that. But wherever you're living, map it out, have a look at it. It's a good way to sort of get out and explore the streets as well. And whether you want to walk, run, or ride it, clock it up and log it into Strava.
Fantastic, mate. All right, so just as the first one, let's say people join, do tomorrow or do the 31st. What sort of just if you're someone who goes, this is the sort of thing for me, and I'm going to get stuck into this, and I'm going to get a mate. What are we talking? We're just talking like a gentle 5K walk just to kick things off?
Yeah, I think, look, and depending on your current level of fitness, and there's been obviously a lot of that happening at the moment, people taking up jogging because it's the only thing they can do with sport not existent and gyms closed. So a lot of people have been taking up running. So there's actually, a good free app as well called Couch to 5K. And this actually as the name suggests, it takes you from doing nothing to being able to run a 5K. And I think it's from memory, I think it's over 8 weeks. But it's a really nice steady increase. And so you can actually use that if you decide, all right, I'm going to do that. I'm going to run a 5K, and probably a good time to give Parkrun a plug, which is not happening at the moment, but that is a weekly free 5K run. And for us locals around this area, is they're all around the world actually, but there's one just in Gardeners Creek. So if you sort of set yourself and thought, look, I'm not doing anything, but I'm going to run a 5K, I'd say get the Couch to 5K program, plug it in, start it, and then on these weekly walks or on the challenges, you just do whatever's scheduled to be done. You do that as part of that event, and the rest of the time you can just fill in with some walking. So it's getting some time on the feet. But the key is you just don't want to do too much too soon, because that's when you end up coming in to see me with an injury. And we've certainly seen plenty of that recently as well. People just ramping up too much that have done nothing. So yeah, good couple of tips to get things started.
Well, mate, thank you. So the big keys out of tonight is 150 minutes for the week of moderate exercise, which, as you said, and that sounds so simple, 3 10-minute portions a day. Like, you can walk down, and that's the other thing. Listen to a podcast, listen to me on a Tuesday, grab the dog, go for a walk, listen to your favourite podcast, Audible, whatever you want, and just take that breath, away from the kids if you're homeschooling or work. You can fit it in really quite easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you've got your 75 minutes of more vigorous exercise on top of that, and if you're doing nothing, that's a great start. Just doing something is better than nothing, and then just working your way up to it. Making gradual change is a lot easier to make in your life rather than turning things upside down and trying to cram in this time. Because if you're doing these things, something has to go, and for most people, it's usually just sitting on the couch watching TV. So but it's just taking that first step and starting with 10 minutes.
And the other thing, if you're homeschooling, like, grab the kids. We've done it a couple of times when I've stayed at home. Grab the kids and just go for a walk. Go down and, pick up dinner for the night and bring it back. And you can get it in. A lot of people are buying dogs this time at the moment. Get the dog out. But, mate, one of the other things, Paul wrote in and said, I really, really like this. Win the morning, win the day. I think that's super, super important for people to get behind.
Yeah, exactly. Start that day off. Get in with the mate at 8 on a Wednesday morning. Great way to start the day. You can just have a chat, and it holds you accountable as well, having someone else there. So it's a great saying. Start the day off on the right foot, and the rest of the day will follow.
Excellent, mate. It's been an absolute privilege to have you on tonight. You're a great man, and I'm sure when I'm driving to work at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, I'll drive past you.
Thanks, mate, and I'll know who it is that's beeping at me and hurling abuse.
I would never abuse you, mate. You're a good man. Mate, thank you for your time tonight. I really appreciate it. And thanks for helping us launch Mate to Mate Fit Club. You're a great man, and we'll see you running the streets. And are you out tomorrow morning?
I'll be, but I'll have to get out. I'll probably have to get out earlier tomorrow morning, so I might be out at 7 tomorrow instead. So, I'll squeeze it in then.
Now, tomorrow night, mate, at 8 o'clock, I know you do this. Who are you going to ring tomorrow night at 8 o'clock?
I've got a couple of people in mind, actually, that I'm going to give a call that I haven't got to chat to. So we were supposed to have actually next weekend have a catch up with mates. We get together once a year, and so that won't be happening this year. So I'm gonna call 2 of those and just check in.
Good on you, mate. Really appreciate your time tonight. You're a good man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Terts. Thanks, mate.
No worries. See you, Luke.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
See you, buddy.
Bye.
Oh, that was great talking to Luke. He had some really, really good ideas there on how to get that 150 minutes up really, really easily. Now, don't ever ring up or text me and say, Terts, you don't go the extra yard. Next week, listen to this. Next week, we are going to have a guy live from nowhere else bar Antarctica. 100 words, talking with Terts Mate to Mate at 8. He's going to Antarctica next week live. We are going to speak to the man called Mike Keating-Keneally. What a great man he is. I had a quick chat to him last week in Antarctica. It was minus 24 and he didn't blink an eyelid. Mate, I was cold just watching him. Okay? This is an unbelievable story about an Irishman who's gone down there by choice. We all whinge about the weather here in Melbourne. We whinge about COVID. We whinge about the fact that we're all stuck at home. This guy's down as south as you go, and he's only got one of 27 people down there. He's got an amazing story. I cannot wait to speak to him next week. Now, as we do every week, I'd like to thank the following people. My unbelievable producer, Matt Walton, who's a board member of 100 Words, does a ton of work. Thank you to him. To Splice Communications, Shelley Wood is an absolute star. We love you, Shelley. Thank you so much for everything you do. To Atlas Equipment Finance and 61 Finance, and unbelievable job, Matt, there and the team. And also to Brett Phillips from the First Serve, Australia's only nationwide tennis show on a Monday night at 6 o'clock on SEN. Does a great job. Huge supporter of us at 100 Words. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Get out and go for a walk tomorrow morning on the 31st of May. Get out and join Strava, Mate to Mate Fit Club. Join that. Go for a walk. Grab a mate. And the first thing you ask him is, how's your day been out of 10? Okay? On behalf of myself and all the boys at 100 Words, I hope your week is 10 out of 10. We'll see you next week.